Hello guys and gals, it's your boy Mr. GreatStory. Bring the popcorn or the chips, get comfortable because you will be going to love this one. Subscribe or it's going to wrap his tongue around your face. What is something that is expensive, but only owned by poor people? As somebody who works at a gas station, Newport cigarettes. Seriously. It's almost only ever poor people who buy them, and they're one of the most expensive cigarette brands we carry. Edit, for those asking how I know they're poor, it's something you eventually pick up on after working at a gas station for a while. It's hard to describe, but it's subtle. It's usually their mannerisms. As a former gas station cashier, I noticed a few trends. The poor folk who buy Newports are usually the poor trying to flex on other poors. The more humble poors go for things like Pall Malls and first class. Whatever menthol is cheapest. Also, there is a very distinct racial divide, with almost all Newport buyers being Puck or living with Puck. The white poors always flex with Marlboros. A lot of poor people will splurge on weird luxury items. If you can't get a Cuban cigar or a bottle of French champagne, you may as well get an expensive cigarette or a sparkling wine when you feel like treating yourself. I remember I had an old Chevy truck that cost so much to maintain and keep fuel in that I couldn't afford to save for another car. I literally kept me broke until I eventually joined the military and could afford a different vehicle. Crappy cars are more expensive than you realize. Mustang, Charger, or Camaro, and 60% APR over how many months? Haha no. A 96 Plymouth Breeze bought with cash. Good for you. So many in the military make the same basic mistakes. I swear, they should tack on 2 more weeks, and the first and last weeks of basic training should be personal finance. I was never in the service, but so many people I knew did the same dumb stuff, including new Mustangs. They should show an actual visual or something about how payments and interest rates work. I'm sitting here with a decent 2000 Ford Explorer and with only insurance to pay while a dude I know is dumping $600 a month for a truck. I think a lot of them can't imagine how much all those payments build up over time. Number 1 rule for buying a truck is making sure you actually need a truck. Like for work. Then it's both usable and possibly a tax benefit. Other than that, driving around the suburbs in a lifted pickup is not as sexy as some people think it is. But Joe Diffie said that there's something women like about a pickup man. A perpetually broken car. I was leaving an abusive relationship that also ruined my credit, so my parents bought me a car so that I could survive once I got out. They overpaid and spent $3,000 on a 2002 Toyota Corolla with over 200,000 miles on it. It was a nice gesture, but I'm now stuck paying them back every month, and I have spent over $1,500 in repairs on this car in the last year and it's still not running as it should. There's no way I could find another sucker to buy this piece of junk, so I'm stuck with it until I can pay it off or until I fix my credit. What a mess. The best advice I can give is to learn the car and how to work on it. Saves an absolute ton of money and the threshold for getting into it is a lot lower than most people think. I can throw advice your way if you want more. Edit, so to clarify a few things, I see a lot of people talking about how mechanics are all crooks. Full disclosure, I'm a career mechanic, though I started out working on my own vehicles out of pure necessity. At the time I was working about 70 to 80 hours a week. I was paid like shit, and I was in a place that didn't allow working on cars, but I made it work. There are a ton of shops that will absolutely rip you off. That is why it is absolutely imperative that you learn how to work in a car. Also, that's why it's important to find a shop you can trust, not just the one that's cheapest. If a mechanic is really cheap compared to another shop doing the exact same time, that is suspicious. Tools can be expensive. Luckily not all tools have to be. If you have a Harbor Freight in your area, that's the place to go. Shit's cheap as hell and has a no questions asked lifetime warranty on most of their tools. Once you have tools, they will last you as long as you take care of them. How to's, YouTube is your friend. Be wary of forums. Buy the maintenance manual for your car. It may not be cheap, but it will save your ass in the long run. Also, try not to listen to people that work at parts stores. Nothing against most of them, but there's a reason why they work there and not a shop. Buddy system. Most jobs are a hell of a lot easier with two brain cells rubbing together instead of one. Not only are you helping a friend gain useful skills, but you both get the benefit of having a buddy on the job. It's also a good idea to have a buddy in case someone gets injured. Where to work on a car? Anywhere you think you can get away with it. Most jobs don't require you to make a mess or go balls deep in the engine. The easiest way to not be bothered is to not make a mess. Catch any fluids that are spilling out, and have some kitty litter on hand to throw down if that's not possible. You do that and most people won't bother you. People that leave a mess to fuck it up for everyone else. Finally, parts store parking lots. Generally, they aren't paid enough to care. Lastly, I'm open to PMs if you have any questions. I'll respond whenever I can. I have access to a lot of info and I'm happy to give advice anywhere I can, in either working on a car or buying a car. Thanks for listening y'all, hope this helps. Lack of preventative care. Cheap shoes or cheap mattress leads to more expensive medical care. Lack of dental maintenance leads to expensive surgeries. That kind of thing. When you can't afford preventative medical care, it catches up to you, leading to more expensive costs later. Fucking mattresses. I'm a paramedic, was badly injured at work last summer, and my life has been a waking nightmare, literally, because I couldn't sleep, because replacing my bed was impossible. Not only are they unreasonably expensive, but we ended up going through 3 different beds before we finally found one that didn't make my back pain worse. We finally found what may have been the magic bullet a week ago and I could cry, I'm so grateful. Edit, a couple of people asking, it's a Zinus. I was deeply hesitant to try memory foam because memory foam beds prior to my injury were awful as far as comfort. I tried several and hated them, and so it hadn't occurred to me to try again post-injury. My brother was a mattress salesman for a few years and a bit of advice he still shares 20 years later is that you spend most of your life in either your shoes or your mattress and you should always pay whatever you need to for both because it's so important for your quality of life. As I've gotten older and developed some pretty hefty health issues because of sleep problems, I can concur that specifically, a good mattress is vital. It's taken me many years to figure out what the problem has been because it's insidious. Sleeping poorly can short-circuit your entire body without you fully realizing it and has ramifications in every part of your life. Shopping carts. My ex was a manager at a supermarket in a low-income area, and he and an employee or two would drive around every couple of weeks to collect stranded shopping carts. He told me stories of finding carts used as all kinds of shit, including dog cages and a grill. Someone turned a shopping cart over on top of a fire pit and grilled meat on it. Innovation. He didn't get that cart back. Don't know if that shopping cart has a coating on it, but I'm confident it causes cancer if you eat it. Then again, someone that is doing that probably has much more immediate concerns. Bad credit. It is expensive to make someone comfortable enough to loan you money without them being certain you'll pay it back. A lot of companies like cell phone service providers will make you put down a large deposit before they'll sign a contract. Pretty much anything with a contract is more expensive if your credit is bad. I wasn't taught money skills growing up and was stupid as a teenager, so my credit has been a struggle to rebuild. Prepay electricity meters. I thought it was a movie thing. There really are people somewhere putting dollar coins into a meter to get light. I don't know about the US, but they exist in the UK. They aren't coin in the slot anymore, you put money on a card. But the worst thing about them is that they are often in rented accommodation for poorer people, and they charge a higher rate per unit of electricity than a normal meter. So the poorest people are charged more for the same thing. Edit, well, that exploded, but now I have to add that a couple of people have pointed out that not all suppliers charge a premium these days, and there is now a limit to how much extra they are allowed to charge. I had a prepaid meter for many years when I first moved in with and we had nothing, and truly it was awful. The stress of watching the meter go down and down so fast, and then with the standing charge, it breaks your heart. It was years before I could actually afford to get a direct debit, and even though now I live in a bigger house with 2 kids now, I swear my bill is cheaper and no stress. All the situations like these make out they are there to help you, but honestly, all they do is keep you poor. It's so sad. It's super expensive to be poor. Been there. Sure, it may cost less per ounce, but right now I can only afford the cheaper total price. Been there. Sure, it may cost less per ounce, but right now I can only afford the cheaper total price. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. But an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was Captain Samuel Vimes' Boots' theory of socio-economic unfairness. Sir Terry Pratchett, Men-at-Arms. Payday loans. They should be illegal. They hurt people more than they help them. Edit, my first Reddit gold. Thank you, anonymous stranger. That's some people's only option though. If they have shit credit and the lights are getting turned off, that may be their only option. Once those are illegal, loan sharks come back and you just get beat or killed if you can't pay it back. Interest rates are stupid high because it's a high risk to lend to these people who don't have money in the first place, and they would go out of business if they charged reasonable rates. Yeah, payday loans have saved me in the past. When all the local places got shut down, I had to choose between bills and diapers. Thank God I'm not in the situation anymore, but I feel for people that are. Rent to own. Spoiler, you never quite own it. I was going through a divorce in another state and knew I was going to get my furniture at the end of the process. So I rented a cheap couch for like $10 for 2 to 3 months to put in my apartment until I got all my stuff. They tried to bully me into buying into all kinds of extra unneeded insurances. They were very forceful and condescending. Then one day, I honestly forgot to pay on the date payment was due. It was $10, and I easily had the money, so I was shocked at the level of anger and pushiness from the phone call reminding me the payment was due. It made me feel very bad for the people who have to go through these situations and treatment in order to have furniture. Not to mention that the couch was complete junk. I did this when I first started out in life. I was literally 2 days late and the rude voicemails started. They would blow up your phone demanding payment. When I made my last payment for that POS couch set with crappy tables, I was so relieved. The second best day was when I put it all on the curb when I bought something better at a regular furniture store. Places like Aaron's just make me mad. It seems like you're getting a good deal, but you aren't. You're paying like twice as much for an item. What? You don't want to pay $2,000 over 5 years for the PS4? It's only $8.50 weekly. Anyone that thinks this model is a good idea should not be handling any finances. At that rate, you'll have spent more in a year than it would cost to buy a PS4. Edit, the number of people replying with cries of poor people has no other option or abusive lack of financial skills is really concerning. This is a fucking PS4 we're talking about. It's not a necessity if you really want one. Save. Or get a calculator and do some basic elementary school math to learn that $8.50 per month x 24 months is more than what a PS4 is currently retailing for. Edit 2, my comment was referring to luxuries, not necessities. For essentials, I feel for people that can't afford them. In the past, I financed furniture and other necessities. I would hope that everyone has access to fair financing for necessities, but I'm in agreement with everyone who says fuck companies that run an oligopoly and rip off people for essential products. Apologies to anyone that misinterpreted my comment, which was focusing on PS4s and other luxury items which people only have themselves to blame for making poor purchasing decisions. Wow, I was going to say it's immediate gratification and they can pay $10 per month for 3 years. I just looked it up and it's $94.99 per month for 12 months for a PS4. That's insane. Yeah, I went pawn shop hopping looking for an XP1 right before the pandemic. Thought Aaron's was a pawn shop, so I went in. I asked if they had an XP1S and the lady said yes, we have a few. I asked how much and she said $85 a month for 12 months. I actually laughed out loud. I asked if she was serious and she looked at me like I was the crazy one. Financially illiterate. I cannot afford it, he said with a sigh. I cannot afford it to buy. I cannot afford it, he sadly began. He checked the installments. He said, now I can. Dental problems. Those impacted wisdom teeth are hella expensive. Being poor is very expensive. I make enough to pay my rent, but I work so much I don't have time for a dental appointment. Even with a stimulus check and priorities in place and a paycheck, I could lose my house if my landlord isn't understanding. I need a job. I applied for McDonald's because it's easy and I'm broke and need the money. They need me to buy shoes and pants before I start. I have money left over from my paycheck, but that doesn't mean I can afford anything more than laundry detergent. It must be nice having fabric freshener and those beads that make clothes smell nice. I have to buy 2 in 1 because who can afford 2 bottles? I had to decide between car insurance or groceries. I haven't made a payment on my credit card in 2 years, even with a stimulus check. I've been driving an unregistered car for 6 months. I wish I could invest, but my son started school and he needed clothes and supplies. Edit, thanks for the silver. I don't think I quite deserve it just for pointing out real social issues we should all be aware of. Instead of giving me any more awards or anything, I would appreciate it more if you took the time to contribute some way to your local community. I also want to thank everyone for being civil and open-minded in the discussion. Lottery tickets. Well, 99.999969% of lottery tickets. Cheap equipment of all sorts. Like dollar store items that really shouldn't be available in the dollar store. This is the Boots theory of socio-economic unfairness. The summary is based on boots, as you might expect from the name, where the laborer only makes enough to pay for cheap boots, let's say $50-ish. Meanwhile the foreman, or person in charge, can afford expensive boots, let's say $100-ish. The catch is that the $50 boots only last one season, where the $100 boots last many seasons. The poor laborer can never afford the expensive boots, but over any length of time beyond a single season, ends up paying more for boots than anyone that can afford a better, higher quality pair, because they're buying boots every season. I always see everything in a dollar store by this metric. Sure, it's cheap, and if you only ever intend to use it once or a few times, then that's fine. Anything you need to use more than once, go somewhere else. A good modern example would be pots and pans, bakeware, and similar. At a dollar store, even if you get a reusable baking tin, it's likely going to fail or rust or otherwise become unusable long before something that's 10x the cost at Walmart. Even the Walmart tin will likely last hundreds of times longer than the dollar store tin. If you're poor, the best thing you can do for these types of items is to buy them from thrift shops, anywhere they sell used goods. Buying a nice, but used item will last longer and cost less in the long run than something you buy at the dollar store. But dollar stores are immensely successful because people are penny wise but pound foolish. Bad teeth. When you can't afford a dentist visit and let your oral health slide, it can have all sorts of expensive health consequences, such as heart disease. Heart disease is not a proven consequence of poor dental health. It is a recognized association. People who can't or don't take care of their teeth likely aren't taking care of their hearts either. A lot of kids. The poor are often very fruitful. I am one of the lowest paid employees at my facility. I always wondered why some of my higher paid co-workers drove old rundown cars and I have a fairly new car. After a few years, it clicked that they all have 2 to 4 kids and I don't. While kids are expensive, having a paid-off car is just so nice. So while I could 100% afford a nice newer or new car, why? A well taken care of an older car is now paid off, squirrel away what would be the payment, and just keep living life. If it works and it's not a money pit, no real reason to upgrade. Spinning rims on cars. Tattoos. They're not cheap, but somehow they're inked from head to toe. The tattoos usually look cheap. I've heard people say they'd never pay more than $100 for a tattoo. I was shocked, but then I looked at their tattoos and thought, I can tell. Good tattoos aren't cheap, cheap tattoos aren't good. An excessive amount of anything, like Jordans, like $200 to $300 shoes, did an eviction once and the guy had about 100 boxes of them. Edit, I meant an excessive amount of expensive items they typically wouldn't be able to afford normally and needlessly spend money on these items. Designer handbags covered in the brand logo. Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton. Fuck, what the hell did I buy? Court fines and legal fees. Our legal system is based on access, and access to cost money. When you don't have that money to access connected legal assistance, you lose in court and get outrageous judgments and fines. Our court system exists to keep poor people poor while making lawyers, judges, legal clerks, etc. some of the most well-paid people in a community. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more. You are a legend.